You think this is alive?
Looks like a pebble.
No, I think it's a seed.
Then is it alive? What's one way to tell?
If it starts growing, then I guess it's alive.
It takes a few days for a seed to sprout and start to grow, but we're using a special camera that shows us several days in just a few seconds.
Yeah, it's a seed, all right.
A plant is made up of several parts, and each part is alive. To see the smallest living parts, we can put a section of a leaf under a microscope. In a piece of leaf just 1 inch long, there are thousands of separate living parts called cells. This is how they look from the top. And this is looking from the side. You can see that the top layer of cells is different from the ones below.
Are these the cells in the stem?
Right,
They're a lot different from the ones in the leaf.
because they have a different job to do.
And the cells in the roots are different from all the others.
Because they have a different job to do.
So, a plant has several kinds of living cells in various shapes and sizes. How about animals? Let's look at some parts of a frog under the microscope. Cells from a frog's muscle. A frog's nerve cell with a long fiber that carries signals to another nerve cell. Red blood cells moving through a blood vessel. So an animal has several different kinds of living cells. Now, in some ways, every animal cell is alike. Every animal cell has a kind of control center called a nucleus and an outer covering called a membrane. A plant cell also has a nucleus and a membrane. But outside the membrane, it has another covering called a cell wall. And in every cell, both plant and animal, there are several smaller parts. To see some of these smaller parts, we'll put some cells from an onion under the microscope. This is what goes on inside a living cell. You can see that the cell contains many smaller parts.
And the small parts are moving around.
Why do they do that?
We aren't really sure. We just know that it happens inside every living cell. We're not close enough to really see what the moving particles look like, so we'll use some drawings to show just a couple of them. The top half is cut away so you can see inside.
I suppose they're different because they have different jobs to do.
Right. Some plant cells have another important kind of small particle. Here are cells from a leaf of a green plant. The tiny green particles inside the cells are able to store up energy from the sun. The plant uses this energy to make its own food. And of course, a plant needs food in order to grow.
When a plant grows, do the cells just get bigger and bigger?
Well, that's what happens at first. But when a cell reaches a certain size, something else begins to happen. We'll speed up the action to show how it works. The material in the cell begins to separate into two parts, exactly alike. This is the beginning of what we call cell division. When it's finished, the two parts of the cell will become two new cells. Watch again. We'll see the first part of the process of cell division, but not quite all of it. The same thing happens with animal cells. For a while, the cells just grow larger. And of course, there's a lot of activity inside every living cell.
I think this one is starting to divide.
Yeah, there it goes.
The camera's speeding this up quite a bit. All of the cells don't divide at the same time. Here, it's just the one in the center of the screen that's dividing. This kind of cell division produces new cells that are exactly like the old ones. And this causes living things to grow larger. But there's another kind of cell division, one which makes it possible for living things to reproduce themselves. A plant has certain special parts where this kind of cell division takes. We've also moved in closer. Now, there are thousands of cells. Some of them, the ones with the darker color, have begun to move. They'll gather in certain places and begin to change into the specialized cells that form the various parts of the body.
Is that part of the skeleton?
Right. We've already seen several kinds of cells, different cells with different jobs to do. Cells that make it possible for living things to reproduce themselves. And cells that form the parts of plants and animals. The story of every living thing begins with the story of the living cell.